Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, I'm Ulfa Awalunisa and welcome to EDSA's Webinar Academic Presentation 2022, preparing English education students to be professional in academic forums. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the participants that already joined our webinar. It's such an honor to see you, and also to our amazing spectacular presenters who have already prepared the best for the presentation today. So, the theme of our webinar is Upgrade Vocabulary and Pronunciation, Build a Good Communication. Isn't it so interesting, right? But before we get started, I would read the regulation for this webinar 2022. First, this webinar will last for 1.5 hours. Second, the only language used to communicate is English. Third, all participants are suggested to take notes during the presentation. Fourth, all participants must turn off the audio during the presentation. Fifth, the presentation will be held in 5 to 7 minutes for each presenter. Sixth, the moderator will set the time to remind the presenter. Seventh, the Q&A session will come after the whole presentation. Questions can be typed in the chat boxes via the presentation. Anyone interested in talking directly to the presenters is pleased to raise your hand. We'll facilitate you if you still have time. And last but not least, if you cannot get your answer, the presenters will send you the answer via email. Alright, so for today's webinar, we'll have 8 interesting topics that will be delivered by 8 amazing women. Somehow I can sense the excitement from both the participants and the presenters through my laptop screen. So without further ado, I would now like to introduce our first presenter, Hannah Sajidah, Pronunciation Power for Learners' Future. Hello, Kahana, are you ready to share your insights with us?
Hello, moderator. Yeah, I am.
Okay, great. Then this room is yours for the next 7 minutes, please. Wait for a moment.
Okay, thank you, moderator, for the host. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. Also, thank you for your enthusiasm today, your willingness to join in this room. And yeah, may we all always in the protection of God. Amen. Right, as we see, my presentation is about pronunciation power for learners' future. But before we go to the presentation, could you guess the reason why am I bringing up this topic, by the way? Okay, then, if you want to ask about it, kindly just type on the chat box and I will answer it later. Thank you. Right, let's go back to the screen. Next. Yep. This talk has 3 major contents: pronunciation, pronunciation learning, and pronunciation for learners' future. Okay, let's step onto the talk with me. Hello, I'm Hannah Sajida, TO21WTO6 and next. All right, I will start the first point here with get you back or even introduce you about what is pronunciation itself. Right, on the screen, we see that the experts stated the arguments about pronunciation there. And I agree with them because pronunciation is about producing some sounds that become a language or a meaning in a conversation. Yeah, because every human in this world needs to speak to deliver the aim in their lips correctly. And one thing that we need is to pay attention to precise details of the language or the meaning, while they come from the clear pronunciation as well. Then, as a learner, what should we do to learn pronunciation actually? Okay, let's continue the second point here. Next. Well, Burns and Claire mentioned that the learner should be achieved these 3 points on the screen. But why actually? Yeah, this is because the benefits of these achievements are clear. You can see on the slide. to increased communicative effectiveness in convey your message and increased willingness to communicate to the speaker and the interlocutor. So the crucial question is, what is the correlation between this pronunciation learning for learners' future? Well, we'll find the answer on the third point now. Next. Right, but before that, talking about the future, it's about something likely to go in or exist at another time, right? And there are a lot of ways for us to get or to reach that future, including learner's future, because yeah, we are the learner actually. So first, education. Sometimes we thought to get a higher level on our education to probably international base. Then pronunciation is obviously has a role here because international education field is written and spoken in English because it's the dominant language as well. Yeah, we know that. And teacher. Everyone knows that teachers have a great influence on their students, then very accentuated is on the screen. Therefore, it becomes extremely important to converse with excellent pronunciation so that, yeah, the learners have their basics in place. And next, interpreter or anchor. Yeah, these are an example career that will absolutely hire the individual with a good flair in English. And finally, social life. As I mentioned earlier, that every human in this world needs to speak because, yeah, we are the social creators. Besides, you know, we can't be separated without communication or having some conversations in our life. So, for example, the speaker might say it's hot today as it's hot day. Yeah, this is unlikely to be intelligible because of inaccurate sound, stress, and intonation patterns. Then, as a result, the listener won't find the speaker comprehensible because we know the meaning is not available. So to conclude, it's clear that pronunciation is a key to create a language or a meaning be understood. And clear pronunciation is essential in spoken communication. Then to speak or to communicate effectively, the ability to pronounce accurately is a must because we are more likely to communicate when we have a good pronunciation and intonation. Next. Yep, this is last but not least. So Mokokoma said that pronunciation is one of the most mispronounced words. Therefore, let's dive into the pronunciation itself so that we never get the mispronounced words anymore. All right, I think I have finished my talk here, and hopefully my presentation is beneficial for you and for me especially. So everyone, thank you for your listening. I'll give it back to the moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Khan, for your excellent presentation, for sharing your insights on the importance of pronunciation, especially for the learner's future. And as a reminder for the participants, I would like to remind you that you can type your questions into the chat box. And now I would like to introduce our next presenter, Kak Zulfa Askia, Strategies for Improving English Pronunciation. Hello, Kak Zulfa, are you ready?
Hello, yes, inshallah,
Okay, great. Then this room is yours for the next 7 minutes. Please wait for a moment.
All right. Thank you, moderator, for the time, and also thank you to all the participants for attending this session. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, good morning, everyone. I hope you all are in good condition. My name is Zulfa Askia, and in this opportunity, I'd like to bring a topic about strategies for improving English pronunciation. Next slide. Well, for those of you who want to be able to speak English and master English, it will be very good. It will be very interesting if you can produce sounds or speak like native speakers. You might ask why our pronunciation has to be good. Is that very important? The answer is yes. Good English pronunciation is very, very important. As my friend Hannah Sajida explained earlier in her presentation, that good pronunciation is essential in spoken communication. Even where we produce minor inaccuracies in vocabulary and grammar, we are more likely to communicate effectively when we have good pronunciation. So, how do we improve our English pronunciation? Without any further ado, let's get straight to discuss the strategies. That's right. Yeah. The first strategy is decide which English you will use. I'm sure you're familiar with British English, American English, Australian English, or another English. And it's quite essential for you to decide what English you're gonna use. Because the way of pronouncing words from one English is different from another English. Example, in British they say water, but in America they say water. It's different, right? Kaufman in 2014 said that we should learn English that we find the most attractive, useful, prestigious, or for whatever reasons that we have, or we learn the English that we are exposed to the most. So, for example, you prefer and interested in British English, then decide British English and learn it more. Or maybe you are going to America, then learn American English. This strategy will help you get used to staying focused on one goal you choose. So from now, decide and choose which English you want to use. Next slide. Then the second strategy is pay attention to the dictionary. Dictionary provides you the phonetic transcription for every single orthography. So whenever you want to sound it or say it, just make sure you read phonetic transcription in order that you produce the sound correctly. There are so many free tools or dictionary application you can download from your mobile phone to help you in improving English pronunciation, like ELSA Speak, Sounds, House J English Pronunciation, and many more. Ahmed in 2019 said that these applications are very helpful in reducing errors in English pronunciation. And next to the third strategy is focus on music of words. This is very important to know how an expression, a word, or a sentence are pronounced. And this includes intonation, word stress, raised or lowered, and so on. And Justin in 2020 said that the tone of the music that comes out when we speak will determine the meaning of our speech. And the strategy will make our speech easier to understand. You can practice this strategy by watching often or viewing any clips in English. Next slide. The fourth strategy is learn through YouTube videos. There are so many videos on YouTube explaining how to pronounce every word in English. You can watch every speech or tutorial from native speakers. You can use the technique of imitating the pattern of your lips and your mouth. Emma in 2016 said that this technique will teach you to listen to the sounds and patterns of English and trains you to make those same sounds yourself. There are also many YouTube channels with different English, from British, American, and another English. Example like Pronunciation with Emma, English with Emma, English with Lucy, and many more. You just have to choose which one you want to learn. And move to the last strategy, practice more. Harmer in 2001 argued that the main reasons causing a lack of attention to English pronunciation are lack of high quality, lack of appropriate teaching and learning materials, and little time for practicing pronunciation. What I'm underlining here is practice. I'm sure you know the word practice makes perfect. So keep practice, practice, and practice. You can practice just a little, but do it every day and repeat every time. Next slide. Now I'll conclude my presentation. Good English pronunciation is very important to make a good communication. And to practice English pronunciation, let's apply some strategies. Decide which English you will use, pay attention to the pronunciation to the dictionary, focus on music of words, learn from the videos, and practice more. And Nelson said, if you are good at grammar and know many different words, good pronunciation will help others hear and understand you even more clearly. Next slide. Yeah, and these are all references I've used. Thank you for your attention. I'm Zulfa Azkia. Have a good day. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Fazullah, for your excellent presentation. Thank you for sharing insights on some ways to improve our English pronunciation. And I think the most important is practice, even though some people might see it as something that is simple. But as Kak Zulfa said, practice makes perfect. And now I would like to introduce our next presenter, Kak Dewi Indriani, learning new vocabulary with a notebook. Hello, Kak Dewi, are you ready?
Hello, yes, inshallah, I'm ready.
Okay, great. Then this room is yours for the next 7 minutes. Please wait for a moment.
Well, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank for the moderator for leading this webinar and for giving me the opportunity to speak on this morning. Then thank the audience for attending this session. How are you today? I hope all of you in a good condition. All right, let me introduce myself. My name is Dewi Indriani. I would like to bring the topic of learning new vocabulary with notebooks. Next slide. I divided today's presentation into 3 sections, namely vocabulary in English, is remembering vocabulary with a notebook effective, and types of notebooks. Next slide. The first section is vocabulary in English. Is vocabulary is an important aspect in learning English? And the answer is yes. Vocabulary is one of the important aspects that must be mastered in learning English. In oral and written communication, vocabulary has an important role to support the 4 language skills in English. According to an article I read on Education First, English has a vast vocabulary with an estimated 215 different words and 3 times as many different meanings. However, many English teachers say that mastering the 3,000 most frequently used words in English will help you understand 19 to 95% of newspapers, books, movies, and conversation in English. In addition, with an extensive vocabulary, you can easily learn from context to expand your vocabulary going forward. The most important thing is to choose the right way to learn so that you can understand and remember vocabulary quickly and not waste time. And according to Michael McCarthy, one of the best ways to remember vocabulary is to write in notebooks. Next slide. Well, go to the second section. Is remembering vocabulary with a notebook effective? Carty's opinion is also supported by Smith's opinion, which states that vocabulary notebooks are an effective way to master vocabulary. This is a kind of strategy that can help to memorize new vocabulary in the learning process. In this case, students can write down words that are foreign to them, guess the type of word, define meaning, make simple sentences, and find synonym or antonym of this word. Here, the vocabulary notebook contains related pictures that help if they don't understand. And an expert named Fall states that vocabulary notebooks are often considered a useful way for students to become more aware of their vocabulary learning process. A vocabulary notebook keeping requires students to record unknown words while also writing down their meanings and related information. Vocabulary notebooks are often suggested as an effective tool for students to use to take charge, organize, and manage their vocabulary learning. Next slide. And the next is types of notebooks. The biggest challenge faced by students is remembering new vocabulary. Students are confused because one word has many meanings and they do not know which meaning they should focus on. To solve this problem, you can write the words either in short sentences or together with other words that have collocation, or just make some notes about the context in which you hear or write the new word. And here there are several ways to memorize vocabulary with notes according to the British Council. The first one is write notes with alphabetical types like a dictionary or by providing color codes to make it easier for us to find vocabulary. We can also sort them by date and time or by grouping word families, like making a table with verbs and nouns in it. And the second is flashcard. Flashcards are easy to carry vocabulary notes that can be placed in your pocket. Each flashcard consists of one word and its definition. You can shuffle order or take to each day and memorize each word while waiting for the exam. You can also easily write a new word when you pick up a blank card. And the third is sticky notes. Like add-on cards, sticky notes can be used as easy to carry vocabulary notes. Sticky notes can be stored on any type of surface, such as on a desk or in your own vocabulary book. And the last type is digital notes. If you want to access the vocabulary book anywhere, then you need to make digital notes. You can create a blog dedicated to new words every day or download a notes app. Next slide. All right, in conclusion, these are some of the ways you can memorize vocabulary with notes. Students have difficulty in remembering new vocabulary, but this problem can be overcome by writing sentences from the new vocabulary, write notes with alphabetical types like a dictionary, or by providing color code, flashcards, sticky notes, and digital notes. But if just writing is useless, we have to keep seeing the notebook written to those words over and over again. Memorizing vocabulary is one of the ways we communicate with outside world. Therefore, there is an interesting quote that I quoted from the Chinese proverb that is, to learn language is to have one more window from which to look at word. All right, maybe I'll finish the presentation here. I Dewi Indriani. Thank you. Back to moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Kak Dewi, for your presentation, for sharing your insights on strategies to effectively learn new vocabulary with a notebook. And as a reminder, you can type your questions into the chat box. And now I would like to introduce our next presenter, Kak Chandra and Zahra, teaching vocabulary using songs to young learners. Hello, Kak Chandra, are you there?
Hello, moderator.
Okay. And this room is yours for the next 7 minutes. Please wait for a moment.
All right. Thank you, moderator, for giving me the opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. How are you today? I hope you're in a good condition, and thank you for attending this session. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Sandra Nurfajriya Azahra, and today I'd like to bring a topic about teaching vocabulary using songs to young learners. Next slide, please. All right, maybe you're familiar with the quotes that says, without grammar, very little can be conveyed. Without vocabulary, nothing can be conveyed. It's a quote from Wilkins, which seems to signify that vocabulary has a very important role in language learning. Next. So I've divided my presentation into 3 sections, namely teaching vocabulary to young learners, the benefits of songs in teaching, and the stages of teaching vocabulary using songs to young learners. Next. All right, the first section is teaching vocabulary to young learners. Vocabulary is increasingly as a crucial component to language learning. The teaching vocabulary for children as beginner in learning a language is very important. It is very important because vocabulary is the basic component that will be used in every language or communication skills. To be able to communicate or convey ideas fluently, either verbally or in writing, people need to have an adequate vocabulary. Therefore, it should be taught from an early age to young learners. However, teaching vocabulary to young learners is not as easy as it looks. Here, Lelawati et al. Also stated that young learners mean children from the first year of formal schooling, 5 or 6-year-old to 11 or 12-year age. Young learners have own special characteristics that differentiate them from adult learners. And here are some characteristics of young learners that teachers should know. They are well motivated to do what they want. They also have high curiosity, more enthusiastic, like physical activity, and pay attention to fun and interesting activities. However, they are also easily distracted and moody, so they will not learn well if they find the lesson is uninteresting and boring. So with this characteristic, teachers need to appropriate their teaching strategies and medias to involve them in learning. They also have to create diverse and interesting activities to build their learning motivation. In this regard, the use of song as a teaching tool will be a good idea. Next, please. All right, the next section is benefits of songs in teaching. Stanislawczyk and Yavnir explain that a song is an advantageous tool, and a teacher should take advantage of it during linguistic practice. More clearly, there are some benefits of songs in teaching. The first is flexible teaching purposes. Songs are useful for various language learning purposes, such as improving listening skills, pronunciation, vocabulary, speaking skills, and grammar. In teaching vocabulary, songs usually have repeated lyrics, so it can enable students to remember new vocabularies in it. The second is motivation and enjoyment. Songs usually associated with fun and entertaining things, so it can stimulate students' attention and motivation. Also, choral singing activities can create a relaxed atmosphere so that students can reduce their anxiety in learning. The third is cultural knowledge. Sometimes the language contained in songs reflects the culture of a community. So indirectly, the use of songs in teaching can teach new cultures to students. Next. Then, how can we teach vocabulary using songs to young learners? So there are 3 stages of tasks for young learners according to Lynn Cameron. The first is preparation. This stage used to activate vocabulary and form basic sentence structure. For example, at this stage, teachers can display picture to elicit vocabulary in the song, and then teachers can stimulate students to talk about those vocabularies to form basic sentence structures. And also, teachers can explain the pronunciation and the meaning of those vocabularies to students. The second is core activity. This stage used to engage students directly and maximize their interest. For example, at this stage, teachers can teach the song at varying volumes and paces to students. And then, teachers can ask students to sing the song together. The third is follow-up. This stage aims to develop vocabularies that have been acquired by students. It can be in written products, such as writing a simple sentence or gap-filling activities, or in oral products, such as mentioning vocabulary that have been memorized by students or guessing vocabulary. However, there is one important thing that I think need to be applied in these 3 stages, namely repetition. Here, Nation explained that repetition is really important. It is the basis for vocabulary learning and for most learning. So here, Paul Nation suggested that teachers should make sure that the same vocabulary is repeated in one course or in the next course. So those are stages that teachers can use to teach vocabulary using songs to young learners. Next, please. And as a final point, I'd like to conclude my presentation. Vocabulary is one of the important aspects of language to achieve good communication skills. It can be taught from an early age through interesting media such as songs. Teachers can use this song media to teach vocabulary by developing more creative activities so that students can acquire knowledge in a fun and effective way. Last but not least, here is a quote from Judy Sumbakova. Vocabulary of a language is just like bricks of a high building. Despite quite small pieces, they are vital to the great structure. Next. And here are my references. I think that's all from me. Thank you so much for your attention. I give it back to moderator. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. What excellent presentation, Cassandra. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on how songs can be the most effective mediums to teach vocabulary to young learners. And as a reminder, you can type your questions into the chat box. And now I'd like to introduce our next presenter, Kak Aura Sekar, Finding Language Learners Vocabulary using online tests. Hello, Kak Aura, are you there?
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Then this room is yours for the next 7 minutes, please. Wait for a moment.
All right. Thank you, moderator, for the opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are always in good condition. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much to the audience who attended in this event. So let me introduce myself. My name is Aura Aziza. And today I would like to share to you a material entitled Finding Language Learners Vocabulary Size Using Online Test. Next slide. I divided this presentation into 4 sections. They are what is vocabulary size, the importance of vocabulary size test, and conclusion. Next slide. All right, let's start from this one. What is vocabulary size? But I want to ask you first, have you ever heard or maybe you know about vocabulary size? Just type in the chat box. So according to Kurniawan, vocabulary size is number of words that a person knows. Having a sufficient vocabulary size will ease to master a language. It is also seen to have the strong correlation with successful efforts in language learning skills such as listening, writing, speaking, and reading. Next slide. All right, let's move on to the importance of vocabulary size for language learners. According to Ponesian, vocabulary size is important because first, it can set in goals vocabulary development. It will be easier to determine vocabulary development goals as a media of self-motivation. And second, guide learners towards choosing material which the right level for them. For example, book for reading or audio for listening, so the learners can understand the content easier. And the third, help learners to study other skills such as writing, speaking, listening, and others because it can facilitate the learning process. And the last can measure the learner's progress because the results will be presented in the form of numbers, so it's easy to see the progress. Next slide. All right, ladies and gentlemen, in the modern era, doing a vocabulary size test can be easier by using the sophistication of technology. And there is a recommendation of online vocabulary size test. The name is Lexicoword Engine VCheck. I have written the link, you can see in the screen. And it is operated by the Lexica Corporation from Japan. Based on the research, VCheck is the most accurate vocabulary test because it's designed to test for knowledge of 99%. A lot of people also recommend this test. Next slide. All right, now I will explain briefly how to do this test. First, you can visit the site with the link I have shared before, and the main page will be like this in the picture on the left. If you already have an account, just tap login button, and if you didn't, tap the create new login ID button. And after that, fill in the form and then click the sign up button. Next slide. Then tap the go button to get started. And for answering the question, just think about the word at the top. For example, in this picture, the word is ear, and choose the correct match from the three choices, just step one. And should be noted that there are some listening questions too. You need to tap the green sound button like a speaker symbol on the top to hear the word. Next slide. This test consists of several sessions actually, and to continue to the next session, just tap the continue button. And when it's already 100% like in the picture, it means you have completed all sessions. So VCheck will prepare your vocabulary size score, so just tap the See VCheck scores button. Next slide. All right, this is the test result report, and the score will be stated as well as your level based on that score. VCheck will sample all words based on 3 ranks. The VCheck will calculate the probability that you will know a different English word using the frequency-based sampling method. So those are the steps. You can try it and know your level of vocabulary size. Next slide. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now I will draw a conclusion from my presentation today. Vocabulary size can facilitate the process of learning and teaching foreign language in order to adjust the level of language learners. And taking vocabulary size online tests can make it easier for language learners to find out their level of vocabulary size. Next slide. Here are the references I used for today's material. Next slide. All right, that's all from me. I hope what I delivered today can be useful for all of us. Thank you for your great attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Back to the moderator.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Kak Aura, for the excellent presentation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on what is vocabulary size, the importance of vocabulary size, and how to test it. And now I would like to introduce our next presenter, Kak Riza Tegal, learning new vocabulary for fellow students through video subtitles. Hello, Kak Riza, are you there? Hello,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Are you ready?
Yeah, inshallah, I'm ready.
Okay, great. Then this room is yours for the next 7 minutes. Please wait for a moment.
All right. Thanks, moderator, for giving me time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming in my presentation today. How are you today? I hope you are in good condition. I'm Reza Tegar, and today I'd like to bring a topic about learning new vocabulary for EFL students through video subtitles. Next slide, please. So I divided my presentation into 3 sections. The first is about multimedia and vocabulary learning. And the second is how to learn new vocabulary. Okay, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I have a bad connection. So I divided my presentation into 3 sections. The first one is about multimedia and vocabulary learning. And then the second is how to learn vocabulary through video subtitles, and the last is conclusion. All right, so let's start our discussion. Next, please. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there has always been a rising stress on English language learning as a mechanism for communication, right? And technology has played a serious role in facilitating authentic communication. In a sense, you can see in the slide that Dwyer in 1978 has stated that the effectiveness of multimedia has drawn great consideration and is supposed under the theory of adding an additional channel of media to send out a message to significantly improve communication and comprehension. And this theory is called multisensory channels. Next, please. Yeah, multimedia technology like television, computers, networks, email, VCRs, and then CD-ROMs, and then interactive multimedia adds the learning technique of integrating real-life situation with the target language into the classroom language. And in this meticulous settings, learners slowly expand their language acquisition by being exposed to the authentic environment of the target language. Next, please. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, vocabulary learning has commonly been one of the most neglected areas of language learning, since many educators in the past prefer to dedicate more time and more effort to other more complicated issues. For example, it's grammar, writing, and reading. And the teachers leaving vocabulary learning for the students to cope with by themselves. But luckily nowadays, vocabulary learning is claimed to be more complex and less straightforward than what it was considered to be. Likewise, vocabulary learning through video production has traditionally been scarce, since teachers have typically regarded audiovisual materials as resources to improve other more intricate learning skills. And in this context, video subtitles can precisely play an important role to help learners increase and strengthen their foreign language vocabulary. So now, how to learn new vocabulary through video subtitles? Next, please. All right. Taliban in 2007 has stated that there are some best ways to learn vocabulary through video subtitles. The first is we need to choose what video that we will watch. It can be movie, drama, education video, or anything you like, anything you want. Or maybe if you are already know what the video about, what the main idea of the video, so you can focus on the vocabulary. And then yeah, I'm sorry. So the first way based on the Taliban in 2007 is we need to choose what video that we will watch. It can be movie, drama, education video, or anything you like or anything you want. And if you are the beginner of EFL, you can use the video that you ever watched, so you already know what the video about. So you can focus on the vocabulary. And then after that, turn on the subtitle in English language. Because we will learn about English vocabulary, of course, we need to turn on the subtitle in English. This subtitle is help us to get the main point of the dialogue. And then if we found the new word, we need to write it on our note and try to guess the meaning first based on the context of the video. And then after finish watch the video, we should find the meaning of that new word from dictionary. And after that, we could make a sentence from that new word. So it can help us to more understand that new word. And the last is rewatch the video in Indonesian subtitle. It can help us to check our understandable with the real meaning of that new video. Next slide, please. All right, we already in the conclusion part, so we can conclude from this presentation that employing multimedia as such as video appliances with the subtitles in language learning environment assists learners to receive the language. And then using subtitled videos would also help language learners develop their level of vocabulary. And there are also many benefits that can be obtained if technology is used properly and will certainly further improve the quality of education. And then the last, I have the quote from the expert in the vocabulary field, Steve Kaufman. Next slide. Yeah, he said yesterday is history, but if you don't learn from your past mistakes, you will continue to make the same mistakes. So never think that you are failed when making mistakes, but it can help you to be a better person. Next, please. Yeah, and then here are my references that I use for my presentation. I think that's all that I can share to you. Thank you so much for your attention. I'm Resa Tegar, and I give it back to moderator.
Okay, thank you so much for your excellent presentation. Kariza, thank you for sharing your insights on how to learn new vocabulary through video subtitles, especially for your fellow students. And as a reminder for the participants, if you have any questions, please type your questions into the chat box. Now, I would like to introduce our next presenter, Kak Gavitri Anggraini. Is it feasible to learn vocabularies through reading the unsimplified text? Hello, Kak Gabi, are you ready?
Yes, inshallah, I'm ready.
Okay, great. Then this room is yours for the next 7 minutes, please. Wait for a moment.
All right. Thank you to the moderator for giving me a chance to talk. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this EDSA webinar, and I hope that you are all in a good condition and God will always bless you. Amen. All right, before we start, let me ask you first, do you agree that there are many ways in media to learn vocabulary? You can type your answer in the chat box. All right. As the previous presenters told before, that we can use the notebooks, song, movie subtitles, and also an application to learn vocabulary. And here, in this occasion, Gabiter Anggraini will share with you about one media, and I will share with you how if we as an EFL learner learn vocabulary through reading and use the unusual media. What is that? As you can see here that my presentation title is it feasible to learn vocabularies through reading the unsimplified text? Next slide. All right, my presentation will be divided into 3 sections, and here are the sections. And let's move to the first one. Next slide. That is the definition. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, vocabulary is a list of words or a collection of words and phrases that alphabetically arranged and defined. And according to Richard 2001, that cited in Farida 2020, vocabulary is the most obvious things of language and become the first attention of linguistics. Therefore, we can conclude that the vocabulary is a list of words that has meaning and become the first attention of linguistics. And what is the unsimplified text? Do you know what is it? But I guess you haven't know what is the unsimplified text. But actually, the unsimplified text is the opposite of simplified text. And according to Crossley et al. 2014, simplified text is the adapted text from the original one, or the written text that have a goal for teaching a specific grammar or linguistic form. Therefore, from their statement, we can define that the unsimplified text is the text that not get or have any changing or simplification, where it is usually located for the native speaker. And then how, if we as an EFL learner want to learn vocabulary through reading the unsimplified text, is it feasible? Next. The answer is not feasible. Why? There are two reasons why it is not feasible. The first one is the Zipf law. The Zipf law describes that around about half of different words in any text will occur only once, and these words, which only occur once, cannot be learned. As Paul stated in a conference, that we can learn a new vocabularies until we meet them 7 till 12 times. And another reason is the density of unknown word. We know that every person, every learner has a different ability, and it includes the vocabulary size. And let's have an example from the data that taken from a conference where Polish asked the speaker. He told that there is a learner with 2,000 vocabulary size read the Captain Blood novel. It is the unsimplified novel, which it contains almost 100,000 words. When he read the book, he found one unknown word in every 8 words and one unknown word in every line. Equally, there are 3,441 unknown words when he read the book. From this, we can see that the unsimplified novel, the unsimplified text can make the learner harder in learning vocabularies. Therefore, we should avoid the unsimplified text. And if we still want to learn vocabulary through reading, we should present the 3 psychological conditions when we read the book. And what are they? Next. The 3 psychological condition are: the first is noticing. Noticing means that we give attention to an item. There are some factors that enable the learner to notice some words when he read the book. It can be because the previous context or because of their realization. And the motivation and interest also become the important thing to enable the learners to notice some words when he read the book. And the second is retrieval. Retrieval means that we comprehend the learned words. There are 2 types of retrieval. The first is receptive, which is means that we can understand the learned words when we do the reading and listening activities. And the second is productive, which is means that we can use the learned words in our speaking and writing. And the last one is generative use. Generative use means that occur when we found the same word in a different meaning, and it also has a different meaning. This situation will force the learners to reconceptualize the words. Next. From this presentation, we can conclude that we can learn vocabulary through reading, but not the unsimplified text as the media. And then we should choose the book that's with our vocabulary size. And when we read for learning vocabulary, we should present the psychological condition. They are noticing, retrieval, and generative use. Next slide. And here are the references. Sorry to the previous one. All right. But if you still want to learn vocabulary through reading the unsimplified text, just enjoy the process until our vocabulary size is enough, which around 800 till 8,000 till 9,000 words. As Theodore Roosevelt said, believe you can, and you are halfway there. Thank you. Gabiter Anggraini, back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you so much, Gaby, for your excellent presentation. So it's not feasible to learn vocabulary through reading and simplified text. Thus, we should read texts or books that is suitable for our vocabulary size. Okay, and then our last presenter, Kak Amelia Sri Sudrajat, some preference in vocabulary reading. Hello, Kak Amel, are you there?
Yeah, here I am.
Okay, great. Then this room is yours for the next 7 minutes. Please wait for a moment.
Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. May we are always in God's blessing. So first of all, I would like to thank two moderators for giving me for the opportunity to speak at this time. So for our topic today is about some current trends in vocabulary teachings. So I have divided my presentations into 4 major sections. For the first is about existing vocabulary teaching strategies by a dynamic classification. So for the second is vocabulary teaching strategies by 2C models. And for the third is learner's vocabulary learning process by a 5R models. And the last is a reciprocal coordinate between 2C and 5R model of vocabulary pedagogy. So before going to our materials, I want to ask first, okay, next slide. Okay, anybody who knows what is vocabulary? Okay, you can answer in the chat box. So what do you think about the importance of vocabulary in ELT? All right, vocabulary is all the language and word either used or understood by a person or group of people. So for the importance of vocabulary in ELT is when students learn a foreign language, many think that learning vocabulary is fundamental, important, but difficult. In an investigation in a specific Chinese context, this is Cortazzi and Jin said in 1996, they found that a typical comment from students was that vocabulary is the most important thing when learning a foreign language. So next slide. All right. So this is for the next materials is existing vocabulary teaching strategies by dynamics classifications. So classroom dynamics is involved that interactions between students and teachers in a classroom community. The purpose of studying classroom dynamics is to learn how to set up a positive classroom atmosphere where students feel comfortable learning, so communicating with other students and other teachers. So classification of the different dynamics which can arise in row that is given, starting for 3 different standpoints. It's information table, approximation space, and constraint. So the meaning of dynamics is intended in 2 broad meanings is evaluations in time and originate from different sources. Okay, so we are to analyze vocabulary teaching method in more details. For the first is the contextuals. The contextual is an approach that presents letters and sound in isolation rather than in complex context, such as connected to the word in a storybook, such as word list, flashcard, so dictionary use. So for the second is semi-contextualizing, is like word grouping, so association, visual imagery, oral imaginary, so keyword, physical response, physical sensations, and cinematic mappings. So for the third is fully contextual listening. It's like reading, listening, speaking, and writing. So for the last one is adaptables, like structured reviewing, structure reviewing. That means is similar to a semantic review in that it attempts to summarize current knowledge and evidence to research question, but it is different. It can be knowledge is assembled in a modern and comfortable fashions. So for the other examples, classify vocabulary teaching strategies as planned and unplanned activities in classroom. As the term show, the unplanned strategies refer to occasion when word many to learn incidentally and incidentally in class when the student requests particular meaning of the word or when the teachers become aware of any relevant word to which attention needs to be drawn. So next slide, please. Okay, so now is vocabulary teaching strategies by 2C models. Okay, there are two groups of teaching dynamics are contextual and consolidating, or we can see 2C models. Okay, this is Farnberg said in 1990. He said there are two teaching types. So for the first, vocabulary teaching strategies has divided into two, namely consolidations and contextuals. So contextual, for the first is contextual, is pertaining or defining on the context of information relating to the situation or locations in which the information was found. So this is defining on the context of information relating to the situation or location in which the information was found. So there are many theories and researchers have argued that there are positive outcomes from the use of context to help learners to recite target word, so recognize the surrounding and contextual meaning, so retrieve cinematic knowledge to improve reception and production of L2 or language seconds. So Morrison said in 1996, it is important to consider the difficulty and amount of content and whether teacher in context like appropriately. So this is also using interactive activities in classroom, which many involve listening and speaking. So result in risk to assist is consolidating dimensions and dynamics. So this is defined in gloss or traditional use of dictionary. That means necessary for helping learners to learn new words as giving conscious attention is also important to learn vocabulary. So when there is a word which has been with this frequency of use of learners need, students many intentionally make effort to retain it. Traditionally, words are highlighted or selected through word lists to help learners to pay attention to them, to learn them and store them in memory, especially in the initial stage of foreign language learning. So for the second is memorization. For vocabulary, if words cannot be remembered, few are like before in Pinchas said in 1996, he said, while there is evidence that memorizing preferably or not, you have to memorize it. To memorize vocabulary, you can make a schedule and a set target number of words to memorize each day. And then so you can memorize the writing, pronunciation, and meaning of each word. So next slide, please. Okay, so this is about learners vocabulary learning process or 5R model. Okay, for the first, there is step 1 or can say receiving. Step 2, step 4, sorry, this is typo. Retrieving. So the last step is reselling in for language skill. It means for the first step, learners have a number of found of new word or either incidentally or internationally. So the four main language skill. Four main language skill is listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So can audio or visual material and from teacher, native speaker to other learners. So this has been maintained that to assert natural incidental occasions, learners should use high contextualizing resource. So for this step 2, it form or modified, so learners may use guessing or analyze the meaning of the word through any morphological elements they that have seen before, associate or create an image of the new word from sound on form. So step 3, this is the mean is this may be a basic step for retaining and retrieving word from memory which may connect to the story. However, if learners choose to neglect a new word, and if the new words are not met frequently, they then subsequent step of vocabulary learning may not always take place. So this is only a line between step 3 and 4. So for the last one is step 5. That means restyling in four language that I have spoken before in writing. So this line of active user can divide learners receptive and productive knowledge. However, such a division may not be always stable. So some words can be learned from step 1 until step 5 directly. Okay, so now please next slide. Okay. So after discussing the two dynamics of teaching and learning methods, it seemed appropriate to investigate this and to design a reciprocal to coordinate model for classroom context. Okay, we can see this picture. The models, what right is not only picks up appropriate strategies to introduce word for word. So, but also consider word are horizontal direction need to be used reciprocally coordinate in vocabulary pedagogy. And then so for conclusion, vocabulary teaching or learning strategies need to cover a wide range of strategies as both the contextual and contextual method draw on different dimensions of vocabulary knowledge. Moreover, the use of strategies may need to circulate and a dynamic system as stage of learning are not likely to be linear. So increasingly, teachers have become aware of the importance of vocabulary teaching. Potentially, this might mean that if teachers introduce a broad range of methods discussed in this material, learners may correspondingly use a broad range of strategies. Okay, so please next slide. Okay, here are the references. Okay, maybe that's all being from me. I return to moderator. Thanks. Wabikul khairat. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Chandra, for your presentation. So, this is our last presentation in session. Let's see the chat box. First question we have from Amalia Zahra. Thank you for the question. Hello, I'm Amelia Zara from Management Department. I want to ask to the pronunciation presenters. So this question is for Kahana and Kazuka. Others are Australian and British, but my question is, according to your opinion, is it important to have an accent in our speaking or pronunciation? Okay, for Kazuka and Kahana, who will answer this question first?
Can I answer first?
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Amelia Zahra, for your good question. In my opinion, it depends on your needs. I mean, if you want to be an influencer, for example, then that's pretty important. But if your question is only in pronouncing or speaking to non-native speakers, that then it doesn't really matter. I think that the most important thing is how well your message is conveyed and understood by the others. And I want to make it clear again that what I'm talking about is about the pronunciation in British, America, not the accent. But yeah, an accent will definitely make your speech more interesting. So if you want to use an accent, just go for it. Maybe that's for me. Thank you.
Thank you for the answer, Kazuba. Kana, do you want to share your thoughts on this question?
Of course. So yeah. Firstly, I thank you for the question, Amelia. So the question is about accent, right? And yeah, I appreciate that. And my answer is going to my experience and my part of view, of course. Right, to me, as far as I read, it has two sides about important or unimportant accent in speaking. Well, at first, we thought that accent is more important while we're speaking or pronouncing something because it's such a sign where we come from or our nation or anything. But yeah, I prefer to an important one because I've read this expert, but unfortunately I forgot what his name was, but he stated that even most of native speakers are going to, adjust their speak when they start to listen to the interlocutor. And yeah, we can see currently English is increasingly has become international language used for communication. For example, we see there are a lot of accents come from another country, and it means it's not just American or British. Even there are Australian accent, Canadian accent, Arabic accent, Indian accent, or even Indonesian accent. So yeah, once again, to me, accents become faded as long as this English language is continue to increase. Yeah, that's the answer for me. Have you got it? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kak Zulfan and Kahana, for sharing your thoughts on the question. And for Camelia, if you still need a further explanation, you can get the answer if you want to. While I'm sorry, if you need a further explanation, you can contact via Kak Zulfan Kahana's email address. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Hi everyone, I'm Eki Rizkia Maulida from English Education Department, Selwyn University. Thank you for the question, Kak Eki. I'm very interested with Dewi Indriani's topic, but I'd like to ask a question. Do you also remember vocabulary with a notebook? If so, which type of notebook do you use often? Hello, Kak Dewi, are you ready to share your thoughts on this question?
Hello. Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, great.
All right. First, thank you for asking, Eki. Let me answer your question. Yes, I also remember new vocabulary with notebook, and the type that I often use is the last type, that is digital notes. The reason I often use digital notes is because I think digital notes are the most accessible and very practical way to do it. Because I often hold my handphone. So for example, when I want to memorize new vocabulary, I immediately write it down in the notes on my handphone. Or when I find a new word, I immediately write it down in notebook too. And I also think that digital notes are the type of notebook that is easiest for us as students to apply because we hold our handphone more often than we hold paper, right? Yes, that the answer for me. And thank you.
Thank you for the answer, Kak Dewi. And for Kak Eki, if you still need a further explanation of Kak Dewi's answer, you can contact Kak Dewi via email address. Okay, let's see the next question. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sheila from Selwyn University. Hello, Kak Sheila. Thank you for the question. Great presentation so far. Well done. Although I would like to know more about Reza's topic. Interesting topic, by the way. So, Reza, you say that nowadays vocabulary tends to be more complex than it was in the past. So, how do we grow the vocabulary? Is it enough to just watch videos? Is it enough to deal complexity with simplicity? Thank you. Okay, Reza, are you ready to answer this question?
Yes, I'll try to answer the question from Sarah.
Okay, great.
All right, so Sarah, I think, of course, growing vocabulary is not enough only using video, but there are also many ways that can we do to increase our vocabulary, as has been explained by other presenter, that we can use songs and online tests, or maybe application on our phone and website, or even by having many conversation with other people that who can be said that that he or she has better vocabulary skills than our. So we can combine these methods so our vocabulary skill can be further improved. I think that's it, Sheila.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Kak Reza. If you still need a further explanation, Sheila, you can contact Kak Reza through email. Let's move on to the next question. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, I'm Rita Rusmiati from English Education Department, Silvang University. I am very interested with Amelia's Sudrajat's topic, but I'd like to ask a question. Of the several teaching strategies, are there any weaknesses in the learning strategies? Thank you in advance. Hello, Kak Amel, are you ready to share your thoughts on this question?
Okay, thank you to moderator. I will answer this question from Nita. So I really thank you for question to Nita. Yeah, there are any weaknesses in these learning strategies. For the first weaknesses is narrow dimension of teaching strategies. It means teachers tend to use a limited variety of method to teach vocabulary in many ELT. So teachers tend to use the contextual method to teach words that come from context, method such as decoding the meaning of word or providing synonyms. Opportunity for world building, practice, and further discussion of the meaning and use of word are less frequent. So for the second weaknesses is contents in classroom teachings. It means teachers must have narrow use of vocabulary teaching strategies, maybe because they believe that giving the meaning of word directly can be less time consuming, or because of their familiarity with certain methods only. Moreover, if has been argued that vocabulary teaching is least likely to be effective because there is belief that vocabulary is learned in a very limited way in classroom. So for the third is lack of awareness of the research findings. It means to teachers seem that have lost sight of the underlying value of using context, and seems the complexity of physiological processes involved in learning word meaning in context. So that is the answer from the questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Kamel, for your answers. And if you still need a further explanation, you can contact via Amel's address. Okay, it seems like we are out of time. So the Q&A session, I have to finish the Q&A session. And if you still have questions we didn't get to today, or think of new questions, please contact our presenters' email address. We'll post a recording of this webinar on EDSA's YouTube channel in a few days. Before we end this webinar, we'll take a picture first, and I will be helped by Kagebi. Kagebi, are you ready to take a picture of us?
Yes.
Okay, so for the participants, please turn on your camera for a moment. It won't be too long, I promise. Okay, great.
1, 2, 3. Next slide. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, thank you so much, Kagebi. Okay, thank you to our presenters and participants for attending today's webinar. Upgrade vocabulary and pronunciation, build a good communication. I'm Ulfa Satika. On behalf of our team, thank you for joining us today and have a great rest of your days. SKS, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.